Okay, let's hit X to delete this cube, press Shift A, and add a monkey. I'm going to tap W to give it some smoothing, and then I'm going to hit G to grab, move it up a little bit, scale it up a little bit, and then hit Alt and tap middle mouse button to focus the object in on my camera view so I just have a little extra perspective of it here. Let's go ahead and split this screen up at the top and open up our UV image editor. Create a new image. I'm going to go to Image, New Image, and call this Monkey Face. This is the size of it, 1024 by 1024. You can make this bigger depending on how much detail you want in your face, your object, whatever you're making. So I'm going to go ahead and increase mine to 4096. But it's always good to increase it in multiples of 2 because Blender best interprets these images by these size dimensions. So I'm going to click OK. I made this black. That was also an option that I didn't really mess with, but you can change the color of the default image you're making to whatever you want. I'm going to move that over a little bit, hit Tab. Okay, so I'm going to hit T to bring up my tools. Before, when we were putting the mustache and stuff onto the monkey head, what we were doing is going through and making a selection of faces, and then we were just clicking Unwrap to unwrap those faces over to our UV map for our image. But there's another way to do that by marking seams of the individual areas you would like to have unwrapped, and then it will unwrap it all in one go. I'm going to go ahead and hold Shift and scroll up, which sends me into Edge Select. And I'm going to Alt select this edge, and you see that it has loop selected around the entire face, which is good because if I mark a seam here and then I put it for my UV map, then I'll have a very straightforward set of faces to work with. So I'm going to click Mark Seam, and now you'll see this orange line goes around the face and dictates where that seam is. So I'm going to go ahead and make 2 more seams for the eyes, and I'm just going to control middle mouse zoom on here for precise zoom because it makes it easier to get close to stuff. And I'm going to Alt select this line here, which is the outer edge of this eyeball you can see here. Then I'm going to go ahead and go over to the other one and control zoom in on it, and then hold Alt and Shift so that it will loop select this and add it to my previous selection. Now if I tap Z, you'll see that I have those 2 inner eyes selected there. Then I'm going to click Mark Seam again. So basically I just have 3 seams set up, 2 for the eyes, 1 for the face. I could get a lot more complex and in-depth. I could seam maybe around the whole head and around the ears if I wanted to particularly be able to have little layouts to be able to paint on top of. But once we have that done, we can tap A to select all the faces involved here, and then go to Unwrap and select Unwrap. And you'll see now over here it's created a UV map based on where we marked the seams. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit T over here to dismiss my tools, and I'm going to pull this over a little bit so we can focus on this. So now that we have this UV map here, there's several things we can do with it. One, we can change, usually this is on view, but we can change it to paint, and then if we hit this little plus sign here, we have this menu here, and we can then paint onto our image like this. I'll hit X to increase the size of my brush. And so to see it over here, what we need to do is change the viewport shading to texture, and then under material tab we need to give it a new material, and then under the texture tab we need to click new here, change this to image or movie, and under image we can pick here to choose from images that have already been created, which is monkey face, and we'll select monkey face, and then I'll hit tab over here so we can see that. And the last little thing we need to do is change mapping to UV. Now you can see where we were painting that purple color over the eyes is actually on the eyes. So if I hit tab, and then you can see, well, the color kind of blinds it. If I paint it something else, you can see that we're coloring over the eyes. There's a lot of interesting things you can do from painting. Change the type of blend to darken or lighten or multiply, and similar stuff to Photoshop. If you'll notice this little asterisk by where it says image here in the UV image editor, I'm going to go ahead and close this. This means that the current image we're working on isn't saved to disk anywhere, and it's a good idea to do that. So we're going to click image and save as image, and we're going to choose type of TIFF. And then you just want to save this texture somewhere where you'll be using it later, or perhaps with your project of something you're working on. So for instance, I would go to my library folder I have over here, and I might go to projects and then create a new directory. I just call this monkey project or whatever. Then you might go in here and you might create another directory called textures. And then we'd save it here as monkeyface.tiff and save as image. Okay, so we can paint on it directly from a top-down view while in the UV image editor if we select changes from view to paint, or we can edit this externally in Photoshop or GIMP or something. So the way we do that is we can go to image and click edit externally, and I have it set up to where Photoshop will automatically pop up, and then the image you're working on will too, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So say we move there and we wanted to do something kooky to the eyes or something we could only do in Photoshop or GIMP, you know, just whatever. And then you could just tap Control S to save your image. And then you could minimize or close it out. I'm just going to close it out. And then under your texture area here, if you go down to image and you click this reload button, it will then show up there. So how I have that set up to where I click image and click edit externally is if I go over to file and then user preferences, under file section here, there's an option for image editor. Under my image editor, I clicked this button here and then navigated through my hard drive to the location of Photoshop, which is under Program Files, Adobe, Photoshop, and then Photoshop.exe somewhere here. And you would do the same thing for whatever image editor that you wanted to use. And you would click Save User Settings, and then the next time you load a Blender up, when you go to Image, Edit Externally, it would automatically load that image into whatever image you wanted to work with. So we can also export this UV layout that we made. All we do is we want to change this back to view and then click on UVs and export UV layout. And then you would want to save this obviously where your project is also. So I'll go back to library and projects, monkey project, textures, and I'll just call this monkey face UV layout. And then click export UV layout. And so now if I open up Photoshop or whatever program I plan on editing the image with, so then I would go to File, Open, and I'm going to navigate to where I have my folder. And monkey project, textures, and the monkey face UV layout. And so I'm in Photoshop here, and we can kind of see this layout here, but it's kind of hard to see. So what I'll do is add another layer, then I'll drop that layer beneath that layer, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill that with black, or I could fill it with white. Then you would just want to edit your map however you saw fit here for the eyes, the face, or whatever you felt like doing. And then when you save this image, you would want to make sure you turn off the UV layout part of it when you save it, so that that UV layout doesn't show up on your object. So we'd click like that, and then we could go to File and Save As, and call this monkey face 2, and we could save that as a TIFF save. Okay, then I'm going to exit Photoshop, and then over here under my image I can then click here to change it from the monkey face to the monkey face 2, and click monkey face 2 here, and then you see we have the image that we edited with our UV, our exported UV layout, and now it shows up very crazily on our object, which is cool. So that's pretty much that.